I married my husband right there, and shortly thereafter, bing, 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 we had 3 children. We had 3 children in diapers. That ended my high-tech career because my job was to stand in front of customer client executives and convince them to purchase IBM technology and to talk about IT infrastructure and database and SQL servers and open standards. And I was changing diapers and dealing with kids throwing up before I had to get them to daycare. So I stepped out, right? I stepped out of the workforce. I came back in 3 years ago, working as a paraprofessional substitute because I don't have a teaching degree. I have a great admiration for most of the teachers I work with because I tell you what, I'll work with most any kids in any elementary school. In fact, I will work with any elementary school in our city. I love it. The tough schools, the not so tough schools, and we actually have a mixture of both. What I've seen, though, is that we face some challenges in our schools, just like you're reading about in the newspaper. There are children that are not succeeding. They're still not proficient in reading. They're still not proficient in mathematics. And every dollar that we put in, thank you, to try to lift that, to find a lever to lift that performance so far has failed. And it's been failing for how many decades, folks? How many decades have you heard that schools are in a crisis, right? SAT scores plummet in the 1960s, right? It started even further than that. Russia launched Sputnik. What are we going to do? Let's get our engineer and our math subjects increased in schools. For decades, we have tried to lift the education attainment achievements of our children. And for some, it has worked, but not for all. With No Child Left Behind, we have a mandate to do it. And we've got to figure out how, with limited dollars and a tough economic environment, to go after all the education needs across our entire community. And it doesn't mean more dollars every time, because it can't, right? So vote for me. I've got a business background. I've got communication skills. I've got team building skills. And I'm here to help our community do better in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Severson. I am completing my second 4-year term on the Rochester Public School Board as director, seat number 4. I was born in a faraway land called St. Mary's Hospital in Rochester, Minnesota in 1961. I married the love of my life, and we chose to raise our children, put them through the public school system here, and remain. And my partnership, we're in our 28th year. I hate to brag, but I got a couple of years on this. So, 2 daughters and 1 grandson is 4 months old. So, Rochester Public Schools, this community has been wonderful to us. I'm very proud to be part of a community that is able to put forward so many quality candidates dedicated to public education of our community's children. That's fabulous to be part of. I think the one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was, you know, the world demographics, I guess. Whether we like it or not, our community, our country, and our world are changing. We know our students will be competing in a global market, whether we like it or not. We know that our children in kindergarten today are being prepared for jobs that have not yet been created. Okay? We also know that China has more students enrolled in advanced placement and honors courses than the United States of America has in public education. So while we have been struggling with this a long time, there are also some very new and global considerations that are important for school board members, for community members and parents to understand. It's also important to understand that public schools today are mandated to report student progress under No Child Left Behind legislation. And public school funding is directly tied to what is required in that legislation that was signed into law under President George W. Bush on January 8, 2002, which addressed not just Rochester, but the national proficiency gap, the power of common assessment and bringing clarity to the value, use, and importance of achievement testing for all students K through 12. It's important to understand that this new era in public education intersected accountability, local control, parental and community involvement, and education for the first time in a very new way. It also is important to understand that Rochester Public Schools has clear, defined targets, goals, and strategies to meet what the law requires, which is all students will meet or exceed proficiency by 2014. It is not a school board member, once they're elected into the position, to debate national education law. It becomes our responsibility as elected board members to ensure full adherence to the law. And the fact is, there's funding tied to that. So my job primarily is to keep the doors of Rochester Public Schools open and available so that the quality teachers and staff and the parents that we have invested in this future of our nation have the possibility to do that. Thank you.
Hi, back in 1955, in my brother's first grade classroom in Arlington, Virginia, there was a little girl who was 3 years old with blonde hair who made a beeline for the piano in the corner of the room. And she had started pounding on it, and this poor brother of mine had to drag me kicking and screaming out of the room. That is my contact with the Rochester public school system, because his first grade teacher was a principal in Rochester, Minnesota for many years. His name was Wally Taggett. And he and my parents subsequently communicated by Christmas cards, and lo and behold, when I graduated from college in 1973 and there were no teaching jobs, he wrote in their Christmas card, "I think that one of our orchestra teachers may want to take a leave of absence next year." So the first thing I said to my father was, "Rochester, Minnesota, where's that?" Having grown up in the state of Virginia, suburb of Washington, D.C., I had geography, but you know, Minnesota was part of that flyover country. So my dad says to me, "Well, there is a big IBM plant and the Mayo Clinic." I knew what IBM was, but the Mayo Clinic, what's that? I had a lot to learn. So I came here in 1974 for a one-year teaching position, and I started with elementary students. I taught in 8 different elementary schools for several years as an orchestra teacher. I'd only planned on being here 1 year. I was going to be gone. As of next Monday, I will be retiring after a 36-year career in the Rochester Public Schools. And let me tell you, it has been a very long year. That said, I still have a passion for students and a passion for excellence in the public schools. I don't know how many people are in this room at this moment. I've been trying to guess. Every day I stand up in front of 75 high school orchestra students who come from varied backgrounds, varied degrees of experience and training, and we work together as a team to make music. And I must say, they do it very, very well. 35% of my students at Century are not white. As for having a specific plan, we have a lot of areas that we will need to address in terms of fiscal responsibility and those other things. But I think that there are 3 main things that we really need to contemplate. And as a new director,